Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's another channel map here for the month of August in 2021. I'm Pronago. Today we're going to be talking about what's going on, what happened in the previous month. Obviously, you know the drill by now, and this is your first one, in which case you'll have to learn pretty quick, huh? Because I'm not repeating myself again. Come on. July 2021 was a month of pretty good developments, actually. I think I say this at the beginning of every channel map, so that part isn't new to you either, but we obviously had the AI overhaul for Cause Monarchy, the Brood War mod. We did a bunch of updates to the build orders. We have different types of build orders, and you recognized some of this in the castovers that I was able to put out in the month of July. We also, Veek and I, did a bunch of work on Antikythera, the open source engine for RTS and top-down isometric games. So, generally speaking, pretty happy with how that progress has shaped up. We initially made a ton of headway in the opening 2 weeks, where we were able to get a pretty robust demo out where it allowed you to paint tiles and place units and shoot and stuff like that. And we had like visuals and whatnot. We played around with shader shadows and shader team color remappings and stuff like that. So we were able to put together a lot of that stuff in a short order, in a short amount of time. And after that, we worked on networking, which obviously took a little bit longer because it's a bit more complex. And it's also something that neither Veek nor myself have a lot of personal experience doing. So that was a time of research and a time of trying a couple of different things. But generally speaking, we've settled on what will likely be the final solution for, I didn't intend to invoke that fucking verbiage, but that will probably be the last solution we have to try for the networking. So there you go. Beyond that, we've been working on concepts. I specifically have been working on a ton of concepts for the setting that Cause Monarchy, the game, and Dreamhold, another game that we started working on in the month of July, will be set in. So that will be Xibalba. Xibalba is the parent sci-fi setting, if you will. It means place of fear, place of fright, that sort of thing. It's actually from some of those ancient civilizations of Earth's history. So kind of funny because obviously there's no humans in the setting, but it's named after something that's very human mythological. So it just is what it is. I just like the name. It's epic, dude. I think it's also supposed to be pronounced completely differently, but Xibalba sounds pretty cool. And that's how most people will probably pronounce it just by looking at it. So that's fine. We've been working on that for quite a while. And a couple other things that are sort of like still in progress. Pros and cons on the second channel, the CSGO channel. That's been a new series I've been working on. Only 2 episodes in so far, but it's just me finding people who want to come on because rather do that than worry about like repeated guests and scheduling and all that stuff. So repeated hosts, I suppose it would be. So that's basically what it is. And then over on this channel, I've been working on not just the castovers, but also a campaign video. That's basically what I keep calling it internally, is the campaign video. Very vague. But basically it's a video that is going through the entire like sort of process of modern quote unquote campaign design and why nobody's learned anything from even like the early 2000s and why nothing has changed. And using that as an explanation in essence for why campaigns are so terrible in Brood War. This is very much rooted in custom content, but it will have some lessons for other RTS developers or other RTS minds who aren't necessarily rooted in StarCraft itself. That being said, it's also taking much longer than I initially expected it to. It originated as just like a sort of analysis of the kinds of feedback that people get when they make custom campaigns and why certain communities are just better avoided. However, it's in order to make those arguments in as good faith as possible, it seems obvious that I need to spend a little bit more time on the research side and also explaining my arguments and going through a couple of different cases to really illustrate my point. So I might have gone overboard with the planning, but we are pretty well versed in how that's all going to go. So at this point, it's just a matter of time. Probably come out this month, actually. So what are the plans for this month? We got RTS plans. We got Antikythera and game development. So that's the engine and the games that the engine are going to support. Still sort of not sure how we're going to approach the individual binaries because there's talk of the idea that you should be able to play as a thespian, which is the characters in Dreamhold, which is an ARPG style, roguelike style action game where you're just playing as one character. There's the idea that you should probably be able to play as that one character as a thespian player, a Dreamhold player, while other people are playing the RTS game. So if we wanted to support that, we'd probably have to have them both be the same game, like the same EXE. or have some way to connect the separate clients or whatever. So that will be interesting. We'll have to figure that out. And that also necessitates more involved networking, where we had a solution that was totally fine for RTS, but probably was not going to scale very well for precise action game style gameplay, particularly when you have clients connecting from far away. So since we wanted to support that, obviously, we had to go back to the drawing board with networking, which is one of the reasons why it took so long. So with that being said, we are going to figure out some of the continue laying the groundwork for future development, and also get it to the point where we can start working on like levels and stuff, and actually test these ideas of somebody playing an RTS versus somebody playing a more action RPG style game. What do these look like, and how can we have them be playing together in the same sense? It would almost be like if you're playing a MOBA and you get to choose between playing the minions, I guess, or whatever, like the spawns, or the heroes themselves, and if the minions actually had like actual gameplay, I guess. So that's sort of what we're going after. It's a mix of builders and fighters or something like that. There's probably some genre that's already merged these two together. But the closest thing that I can think of is when you have those FPS games that have like one player serving as the commander and like sending like supply drops or issuing orders or pinging, like highlighting certain things and looking at things from a top-down view. Those kinds of things are probably the closest allegory. Obviously, it wouldn't be an FPS, but maybe that's another thing that we could look into. Who knows? We have many aspirations here at the No Frauds Club. So beyond Antikythera and game development and the concepts therein, I will announce here that Cosmonarchy's Brood War mod, the development and bug fixing and stuff, that's pretty much done. We're actually deciding, instead of worrying about reverse engineering so much shit, so that we can actually make basic things like unlimited unit selection, or raising the limits of in-game units, or improving performance, or whatever. All that stuff just doesn't really make any sense when we have an engine that we're progressing in much farther than trying to reverse engineer Brood War. So, to that effect, whatever is within reasonable, minimal amount of work required to fix can be fixed by me, and Viek can remain fully focused on Antikythera itself, as he is the primary engine architect, while I just sort of do miscellaneous upkeep and add some small balance tweaks here and there, continue to add audio visuals that will be useful in the port, stuff like that. So that's where most of the mod development is going. Everything else is basically retired. Any features that we were intending to add, unlikely that we will, just because there's not really much of a point in spending time getting them hooked up and reverse engineering the functions necessary, just so that we can then have a much easier time hooking it up in another engine. And yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Hopefully people understand that, which does mean that you'll probably see less updates out of the content for a little bit before we get Cosmonarchy's Brood War mod ported over to the new engine, which will probably be by the end of this month, but who knows. Aside from that, that doesn't mean I'm not going to continue making maps. More scenarios and maps will still crop up from time to time within Cosmonarchy's Brood War mod environment, so there will still be a bit more content for people to play, and I know some other people are making some maps too, so who knows? You'll have to wait and see and figure out what's going on there. And then beyond that, I am still working on the mapping tutorial series part 3. The reason why this month we didn't have one is mostly because I've been swallowed up with work on the engine. So as that continues to subside and as we get a little bit further on, I will continue working on it, but I don't expect it to actually come out this month either. So if you were really holding out hope for that to be happening this month, I hate to disappoint you, but unlikely. Going over to the channel plans for video content, there will be some Xibalba streams. I actually did one in the month of July. That will continue on as I continue to figure out some things about the setting. Basically, they just help me stay accountable. They spend a lot more of my time being focused, and like I know, like, okay, well, for 2-3 hours or whatever, I'm going to be decidedly working on this content. So that will help me out a lot, I think, in terms of remaining on point, you could say. And then there's still going to be AI castovers. That campaign video will probably come out this month, as I mentioned earlier. And then the Street Dog podcast should return. Dynamo will probably be back in action relatively soon, and I will certainly make time for the man. So with that being said, what else do we have? Other channel plans. So I say other channel because it's not just the second channel. The pros and cons episodes on the CSGO channel will still continue where applicable, where I find the right guests and have the right topics and have the motivation to do it. Now, on the side of other channels, I will be making a new channel this month, as well as a new Discord server for the No Frauds Club game studio, if you want to call it that. We're basically treating it like an independent studio that's public facing, so that people don't need to sift through like a bunch of unrelated videos on this channel This will still be my personal channel, obviously, and if people want to check out development of the setting or maybe development of the engine or something, they can go to my channel where I do those streams, or Veek's channel where he does the engine streams or whatever. But it's not necessarily that we consolidate all of that into one channel, just because that would make it also very messy. That will be basically a public-facing YouTube channel that will have like regular updates. Here's what we're doing so far. Here's how far we are from release, that sort of stuff, as well as general announcements about mechanics, or eventually we'll throw in like a trailer when that's done, or something like that when we get to the point where the game is closer to release. And we'll ideally be able to announce like a specific release goal or release date. So with that all said, this is a time of exciting moves for sure, and this was also something that I sort of played around with in some of the castover videos that I did, is teasing about some of the stuff, or mentioning some of the stuff. It's just, I'm very excited to finally be able to unshackle my inner creative like story writer or world builder and actually go to town making a bunch of regencies. Right now we have, so they're called regencies in the new setting instead of races or factions, and right now we have 17 unique concepts, and there's not really much overlap between them in terms of what the gameplay will be like. A lot of them are kind of vague right now, but those threads can be pulled on and elaborated on, and that's what I intend to do over the next couple weeks, is really flesh out all the concepts for every single one of these, and we'll probably get up to round 20, I would imagine, by the end of the sort of like the upper limit. And yeah, the game's not going to ship with that many. It'll probably ship with 5 or 6, and after that we'll just have expansion packs, and we'll figure out like talking about the actual content plans and stuff will continue on later on. Obviously, I'm not planning on nickeling and diming players, as I have a very strong sort of revulsion against that myself. But we'll figure out ways to make it like not predatory, actually providing you for value for your money, but also being able to get sufficient resources in. Not really profits in the same way. It's just like, can we pay the bills? That's more or less what we're considering. So obviously that's a bit of a balance. We'll figure that out. There's not going to be any microtransactions or anything in the games. There's not going to be like any sort of cosmetic thing. I'm not even sure if I would gate it behind like needing achievements or something. I guess that could be one way to do it. But even beyond that, like that would just be like, oh, are you good enough to earn this? And if so, then you get it. And that would be it. So there wouldn't be like, oh, pay money to get this skin or something. And certainly wouldn't be anything related to performance for that either. And anything like that will be toggleable off as well. One of the things that, this is an aside before we stop, but one of the things that really triggers me about Counter-Strike specifically right now is that everybody can wear these ridiculous skins and you just have no argument against it. Like, oh, he's wearing some skin that makes him a little bit more weird for me. And just by virtue of it being different and having maybe different colors or something, it's harder for me to know that, oh, that's an enemy and not something else. And so I don't shoot him in time and then I die. Well, I could certainly get better and learn over time. But the fact that like this guy's just got that advantage over me because he paid money is really stupid. And even if it is a fleeting advantage that only gets him a couple of kills at the beginning before I learn, that's still a couple of kills he might not have gotten in the same way, right? So it's just annoying. I should be able to turn it off, and he can still have his like model that he looks at afterwards, and that's fine. So that'll be the kind of approach that I take. Is if you want those, it's a command from older versions of Counter-Strike called CL_min models. If you want min models, if you want minimum spec models that don't have any sort of skins on them, then that's certainly something you can do. And I see no problem with setting that up and having that be a feature. So that if we do have some sort of weird thing where like you earn a new look or design a new look for your own units, that can still be toggled off so that readability is preserved by your opponents. That's how you maintain competitive integrity. And I know, far be it from me to decide that I have a better method of doing stuff than Valve does, because Valve's obviously this big company that cares a lot about their products, but I can't even say that with a straight face. That's it for the channel map. I'll see you boys soon or get some more work done. And until then, don't die.